of the Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
Mr. Vice President, I'm going off script again, I know, but I just want to personally thank you. We've been through some stuff. We've gone through some of the most complex military operations this country's ever conducted, and your steady hand and your leadership during those was a great source of strength for me. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your character. Thank you for your selfless service. Thank you for commitment. Thank you for being a mentor to me, Mr. Vice President.
It's called the swamp. And you know what happened? And you know what I did? A big favor. I caught the swamp. I caught them all. Let's see what happens. Nobody else could have done that but me. I caught all of this corruption that was going on, and nobody else could have done it. Did I get that one right? Every 4 years, we gather on these steps to carry out the orderly and peaceful transfer of power. Today's ceremony, however, has very special meaning, because today we are not merely transferring power from one administration to another, but we are transferring power from Washington, D.C., and giving it back to you, the people. For too long, a small group in our nation's capital has reaped the rewards of government, while the people have borne the cost. Washington flourished, but the people did not share in its wealth. This American carnage stops right here and stops right now. The forgotten men and women of our country will be forgotten no longer. From this day forward, a new vision will govern our land. From this day forward, it's going to be only America first.
This is a president of the United States who is a danger to the Republic.
America first.
He knows he's an illegitimate president.
The oath of office I take today is an oath of allegiance to all Americans.
The great Trump recovery.
America will never be a socialist country. I will fight for you with every breath in my body.
Russia, Russian, pro-Russian, Russian, Russia, Russian, 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 the Russians. Russian.
Russia, Russia, Russia.
And I will never, ever let you down.
A dangerous virus is spreading rapidly in China, and U.S. officials are very worried that it could come here.
This is really the worst attack we've ever had. This is worse than Pearl Harbor. This is worse than the World Trade Center. There's never been an attack like this.
The time for empty talk is over. Now arrives the hour of action. What they're doing is using COVID to steal an election. Together, we will make America strong again. You know what it's about? Fraud, fake ballots. We will make America wealthy again. They are trying to steal the election.
Now, under the leadership of President Trump, we are fully realizing President Kennedy's prescient view of Special Operations Forces.
We will make America proud again. And watch, please, those mail-in ballots. We will make America safe again. And in millions and millions of ballots. Their vote is under what they thought they needed. They're dumping more ballots in there, okay? And yes, together, we will make America great again. Thank you. God bless you. If we are right about the fraud, Joe Biden can't be president.
Congress, the chair declares the joint session dissolved.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Devolution Power Hour, the Saturday edition. Are you two in the right spot?
I think probably not, but it'll be okay either way.
No, we can't have it that way. But how's it going, guys?
My voice is almost all the way back. I'm stoked as hell. Just in time
it?
for the Power Hour, because my voice sounded like shit yesterday, so I'm excited.
I thought you were at a dancing thing, not a singing thing.
Yeah, thank God. That would have been a disaster, but the dancing thing, I can dance till my heart's content. I have a few videos of me dancing, but they're not good enough to show you people, so they'll be coming soon when I spruce up my act a little bit.
Okay, Ashley, if you're listening or watching, you need to somehow get those videos to us ASAP.
I will take a still photo just to see your outfit. Can we get a still photo?
I wasn't even bedazzled last night. I have gotten a lot more conservative.
Oh.
Well, that's lame.
But
anyway,
seriously though, right after Myrtle Beach, I will be attending a competition. I will be a dancer at that competition in November 20th, and I will be a rhine-studded dancing friggin' freak on a big ass stage with big old stage lights and a giant room of audience. And I really hope I don't suck too bad.
That was probably the first time that sentence has ever been uttered like that.
Yes.
Wait, so are people going to have to extend their Myrtle Beach stay to see this?
No, it'll be in Houston. It'll be way after.
I thought you were saying you were just basically moving to South Carolina to take your dance game to a new town.
One-man show.
He's going to take his talents to Myrtle Beach. Where specifically in Houston? Just curious.
I mean, I don't even remember the venue, but like Galleria downtown. It'll be someplace nice. A hotel.
The 20th?
Hotel. I think it's the 20th, but don't quote me on that.
Okay.
It's close to that.
Just curious.
I am
show up.
in, though. We've already freaking got our positions in there, and there's no getting out of it. So
awesome. Well, I can't wait for that. But how are you guys doing? It's been like 2 weeks. I wasn't here last week. How'd it go with Ghost?
It was a great show, Chris. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah, we had a good old time. We what did we talk about?
It wasn't too much fun. Well, if he was on, I bet it was the Middle East.
We did do some of that. He took us on this wild dig that started at Maduro, I think, and ended up at the Middle East. And we talked about diamond mines in the middle.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a good show.
Things got wild.
I said last night on the Liberty Den, I got to start watching his show because I feel like I just learned so much when he rambles.
Man, that dude has a way of putting together these massive like graphics. Patrick, what did we say was the Always Sunny in Philadelphia, like
Always Sunny in Philadelphia meme about the conspiracy board Charlie Day has.
Yeah.
Isn't that what the same program that some bitch I know uses?
No, she used something else called Web
Mind Map
or shit. I'll text her and ask her. I probably already texted her twice asking her what the name of that damn thing is, but Web Commons or something like that. Same idea.
Gotcha. Well, anyway, should be a fun episode tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about Trump's rally at Coachella today. And one of the things he said, which he is saying again now after about a year of not saying it, having to do with illegal immigration, and it has to do with wartime powers. We're going to talk about the weather ruining marriages and family dynamics. We're going to talk about yard signs. What else? There's more. We're going to talk about, what Trump called Kamala in private to donuts.
Retard?
Yeah. Well, now you ruined it.
Sorry.
It's supposed to be a surprise.
Sorry.
Yeah, there's all sorts of stuff. But yeah, let's get to our sponsor, Patrick, our first sponsor, and then we'll get right into it.
Absolutely. I have it in my other browser. Sorry about that. Guys, our partners at EasyRx want to help you in this time of need. With government failures and devastation running rampant, it's never been a better time to stockpile popular medications like amoxicillin, azithromycin, ivermectin, fenbendazole, hydroxychloroquine, and other viral care medications. EasyRx wants to help you in such a time as this. For a limited time, Badlanders will receive 25% off purchases over $100 using promo code Black Friday. Rest assured that you and your loved ones are ready for anything with EasyRx. Go to badlandsmedia.tv/EasyRx and use promo code Black Friday for 25% off purchases over $100. Stock up on antibiotics and other necessary medications to keep you and your family healthy. That's badlandsmedia.tv/EasyRx and use promo code Black Friday for great savings.
Awesome. And don't forget to hit that thumbs up, everybody. And to the 5 of you who hit that thumbs down, I feel like that's a little premature. You haven't even like gotten into it. So that's not fair, but
You
whatever.
suck.
Yeah, you suck. Anyway, let's start with this story, Patrick. I feel like you're gonna have a grand old time reading it. Let me pull it up. There we go.
From CNN, New York Times, Trump made offensive remark about Harris's mental acuity at dinner with donors. Former President Donald Trump called Vice President Kamala Harris retarded while attempting to convince top Republican donors to pour more money in his campaign, New York Times reported Saturday. According to the Times, the former president's offensive remark came during a dinner with donors at his penthouse apartment last month. Among the donors present were Trump's former education secretary, Betsy DeVos, and her husband, along with her husband. Her brother is the important guy, along with hedge fund manager Paul Singer, investment banker Warren Stevens, and billionaire Joe Ricketts.
Wait, who's her brother?
Eric Prince is her brother.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. I didn't know that. How did I not know that? That's interesting.
Yeah, she married somebody named DeVos. Her maiden name is Prince.
Interesting. Okay, I wonder who leaked this story. First of all, it's hilarious. Like, if anything, I think this helps Trump rather than hurts. I know some people get sensitive about the word, but it's commonplace here on Badlands that word is used. So nobody in our audience should be offended. But yeah, I think it's hilarious that Trump actually said this. If it's true, like, who knows? I'm sure this is based on anonymous sources.
Well, it's also like a month ago. So that means that if it's real, they've been saving it. They've been holding on to it. Like, let's tell the public that Trump called Kamala retarded at the exact right moment. That'll hurt him the most.
Seriously, what are they doing here?
Like, let's show them Kamala being retarded for 3 straight weeks and then let them know that Trump knew it a month ago.
Oh, it's so funny. And it's even more funny, like, when you think, did you guys see Walls today trying to load the shotgun?
Holy shit. Yes, I saw that. Guys, I think that, if anything, is more signal of a devolution proof than anything else I've seen. Who the frack puts that serial buggerer on camera doing that?
Never fits quite right. No.
Well, this guy's was in the National Guard, allegedly. Like, I feel like they train you to load weapons. He's in a state where he hunts all the time. I'm assuming he does this hunt fairly often.
He's running for, he's supposedly
every
running
year.
for vice president of the United States. There's no chance that this video doesn't get spot checked by someone.
Yeah.
Who said, yeah, fucking A, send it out, Dano. Who said that?
Well,
Nobody.
who gave him a gun that wasn't loaded? But too, like, why even put him through this? Or why not show him how to load the gun?
This guy's, there's something wrong with this dude.
Well,
National Guard, what?
We also have the issue that now it's becoming pretty widely known that there are claims of Tim Walz legitimately being a pedophile, and claims that have been lodged well before he was ever named as a the fake vice president's fake vice president.
Did those claims come up before? Because the first one I was aware of was the guy Zach interviewed.
So I started looking for it today, and there were times this was brought up and things were debunked. All of this was loaded into cover stories like debunkings of Tim Walz signing a bill in Minnesota that made things really easy on pedophiles. And we've seen similar legislation in California and whatever. Apparently, there have been stories about him for a while, him as a, quote unquote, football coach. his trips that he even says in his speeches he took to China with all of these kids from the high school. I mean, imagine like having a 14-year-old travel with that guy. But yeah, so Zach had those quotes, that interview last week, and then there were these posts about it today. I don't know, man. Seems like there's more than just smoke there. And so that's just another example of, did they vet this guy, or is everybody just being spotlighted so that the nation can see who the up and coming stars of both political establishments actually are?
The latter is the correct answer in that
That's
case, Chris. And this little cascade, this failure cascade of Kamala and Walz smells to me the way that the Biden failure cascade smelled right before they shuffled him off the stage.
Yeah.
I think we might be being prepared for shuffling Walz and Kamala off the stage to get us the villain we may not need, but we certainly deserve, Hillary Clinton.
I don't think so.
I know you don't think so.
John, give them your thing, and then I'll talk about what we were talking about today.
Okay. Well, so first of all, on the topic of Walz and Kamala, right? So had Kamala not been switched in there for Joe Biden, we'd still be with Joe and Kamala. And a lot of the attacks on Joe would be reruns. They'd be the same. Having Kamala in there, you get a whole new fresh round of attacks and attack vectors and stuff. And Trump basically did egg that on, just like he egged on, I think, the way Joe Lang put it way back when, is like he egged on the media, and the media got Joe in there for him. Like, he pretended he was afraid of Joe, and they got him in there for him. And he kind of did the same thing, like with Kamala in a lot of ways. I don't think it mattered, but it feels very Control-E, right? But when it comes to the Hillary thing, and everybody's freaking out about this video, let me see if I can find it. Should have had this pulled up before. Yeah, this is it. So I know Hillary's very relevant to the Q drops, and back when the switch first went down, when Joe dropped out, a lot of people at that time were like, okay, here comes Hillary. This is the chance. And at that time, I would have been, okay, I could see them putting Hillary in here. I think we're too close to the fake election to swap out the fake candidates at this point. But considering it's a fake election, who knows? But this is what everybody's freaking out. This is what everybody's freaking out about recently. Let me play this.
Person in her, and we don't know anything about her. We have to, but now we learned, and now the people are learning, and she's crashing like a rock. Uh-oh. I just a thought from a very brilliant mind. They might want to put a third person in that. Oh, no. Please be nice to Kamala, to my people, I'm telling you. Everybody that's on the Trump team, be nice to Kamala, because they're going to put a third person in. Let's see, who are they going to put in next? This can only happen. They keep saying Hillary. Hillary's coming. Oh, Hillary's back. You know, it's interesting. If Trump talks about the 2020 election, they say, indict him. He's a conspiracy theorist. But Hillary's still talking about 2016. She has got serious Trump derangement syndrome.
Okay, so I know we put a lot of weight into the things that Trump says most of the time, especially his asides, but rewatching this video a couple times now, he got onto the Hillary topic that wasn't his own natural aside. Like he had said, oh, who are they going to run this time? And then he continued on with the rest of his speech. He started reading when he heard and processed that somebody yelled Hillary. And then he had a honest, natural, what felt to me like an honest laugh. Like, that's hilarious. I'm going to comment on that now. Like, that wasn't a natural weave that he does. That wasn't a planned weave, or even like, it was just, it kind of happened. And let me play this one more time to where he says, who are they going to put in now? He starts reading the next part of the script, or the teleprompter.
I don't think he's reading.
Yeah, this is scripted.
Yeah. No, I understand.
But listen. He starts saying something and then he laughs.
Because they're going to put a third person in. Let's see, who are they going to put in next?
Okay, and so now he's looking at the teleprompter. He says like the first 4 words of this next sentence, and then he hears Hillary and laughs, and then goes into it.
This can only happen. They keep saying Hillary.
But he's saying this can only happen
Yeah.
That's what he was saying, right?
Yeah.
And so usually when he's saying that stuff, he's like, this can only happen to me, or this can only happen in a situation this great. Like he's usually going in to one of his things about how ridiculous all of this is. Like it couldn't be real unless it was to Trump. And because it's me, I guess it's real.
You know what? Do you have a rebuttal on this? Because I'm going to find the transcript to see if he goes back into this can only happen.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I don't have a rebuttal, but I don't need one. I mean, Trump reacting this way is not dispositive of anything, but I mean, come on, guys. Just from a narrative structure perspective, a Trump v. Hillary rerun makes the best damn screenplay, and Donald Trump is freaking writing a screenplay.
Yes. And then you just have to take out Hillary again, and then Obama with Big Mike, like coming out at the very end, and they tag team. We're almost right back to folding the narrative back on itself. Like 2016 to 2020 went this way, and then 2020 flipped back and ran back to 2016. We got to reverse all that thing, and then we can move forward. It has to happen. Also, go ahead.
No.
Oh.
We don't forget. We're not.
Sorry, you guys go ahead. I didn't mean to.
I'm
not honestly not really paying attention right now. I'm trying to listen to.
That's all right.
But keep going.
Yeah, I also think like Trump was taunting the enemy with that stuff. I think that there's a lot of taunting going on now, and whatever their reaction is, they can either support Kamala even harder, like we would never replace this fake vice president in this fake campaign.
Yeah.
Or they can start bailing out on her harder, because they're doing both things at the same time all the time to see which one people are responding to. It's so weird, man. We are in, I think they're in a catch-22. They're basically trying everything and just hoping that one of those things sticks and they can just keep going that direction. I don't know.
But Chris, we're seeing them, whoever's handling the creature wearing the Kamala mask and the creature wearing the Walls mask, whoever's handling their day-to-day activities is spotlighting their most vomit-inducing ridiculousness.
Yes. How does it happen?
I don't know how that happens, but it's not people who want to have a President Kamala.
Right.
So how do we explain that?
I mean, I have an explanation. John, if you want to jump in, go ahead.
I just want to comment on a little bit. I mean, I missed some of what you guys are saying, but I do get the gist. The fake, fake election, fake candidates, all this stuff that we keep saying on the show. I believe it. Like, I don't think this is a true election. I think devolution was implemented. I think continuity government, all that stuff. I don't know how this ends up. I think it ends up with Trump back in office. So on those grounds, anything could happen. If we do get a switch this late in the game, like to me, that's a sign of that's a Devo proof, because there's nobody in their right mind would switch out a candidate less than a month before the election and try to pass off that candidate and try to get them to win. Like, just, it makes no, I don't think the normies could process that. And maybe that's what we need. Maybe we need something the normies can't process for them to finally start questioning things.
You just stick a thought experiment in there and you say, okay, let's just hypothesize 1 week before the election, the Democrat candidate dies, just as a hypothetical. What is the process in place for replacing somebody that close to an election? Because people die. That's a real thing. Mm-hmm. So how does the law handle that?
Well, I think by that time, most of the ballots are printed, like they're all printed, but that's irrelevant, I think, because they say whoever the candidate ends up being, they can slide them in there. Does Walls does he become the nominee?
Don't look at me. I don't know. There's got to be some like legal beagles out there who know the answer to that question.
Yeah. I think they're looking for an excuse to not have the election at all.
Well, yeah, that's what it is. And that would get them out of this problem, at least temporarily. Like, John, I was saying to you today, I have thought for years now that there's at least like this tiny outside possibility, knowing that the fact that our elections are illegitimate is going to come out and be proved in whatever way people need it to be proved at some point, that the regime, also knowing that, might preempt that, prove that the elections are unverifiable. There's no way to deliver an outcome that will yield legitimacy. So they kind of just collapse their own election system on their own, present us with a new election system, and then declare that there's going to be an open primary between everybody on the Democrat side and everybody on the Republican side. And it's just, may the best man win. And everybody decides that's fair with this new election system. They'll say it's verifiable on the blockchain or something. We have heard that, both sides have very similar plans because all the same problems need to be solved, whether it's through the Great Reset agenda or through what we believe is happening. All those problems need to be solved. So there are very similar plans on how to solve them. And kind of sometimes the only differentiation is like the direction of those plans, like the valence of them. Yeah. And so if they present a new option for an election, they can put in their Con Inc. people, the Democrats can put in their people, and then hash that out. I think that through the fake primary and now what we're seeing with this ridiculous Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton, Michelle Obama, Gavin Newsom, all that thing, is that Trump is essentially putting a spotlight on, however temporarily, every one of the establishment's next generation of superstars and putting them right up before the nation and saying, look at all of these people. All of these people are willing to contest me, Donald Trump, which means they are willing to go against each and every one of you too. And I don't know, man. I think that's what we've been watching.
What do you mean by like implode their own system? I don't understand why the Democrats would do that when the system really only benefits them, or the uniparty, not just the Democrats, the uniparty.
Okay. Well, so what I'm saying is, Klaus Schwab has talked about this before. Yuval Noah Harari has talked about this before. Klaus Schwab has talked about the end of elections. Like, we're never having elections again. Elections are unnecessary. We already have all their data. We know how they're going to vote. We know how they're going to vote better than they know how they're going to vote. So why would we bother with elections? Yuval Noah Harari talks about the entire governments of the world being run by AI. And he's even said, like, we can still have elections, but that would just be the people expressing their opinions about this or that. And really, it's just going to be the machine running everything. And so they have an agenda already to get rid of elections. How do you get there? Well, they have an agenda for the next economic system. How do you get there? Well, that's what the Great Reset's all about. They were going to collapse all those systems and introduce their new normal. And so at some point, they're going to say, yeah, you know what? It's like we told you back in that Kill Chain documentary in 2018. The machines actually don't work at all. And every expert says the machines don't work. And it turns out, yeah, we've been letting illegal immigrants vote. I mean, the Uniparty has let the country know about all these things. I would love to take credit and say that the truth community got all this out there. But at this point, it's Tucker Carlson and Fox News telling people that illegal aliens vote.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think, where's the game theory? Like, what's the logic in them taking away even that illusion of democracy from the people that they've been selling democracy to for 20 years, Well,
it's going away either way, right? So why wouldn't they frame it on their own and initiate that process, blaming it on the other side, as they're doing, by the way?
Yeah, but okay, so you think that's something that's possible that they could do before the election, because they know if they don't, they'll lose control.
Well, yeah, man. I mean, the election system is falling apart no matter what. Yeah. We're watching the process of that because it's not a real election in the first place. And
I like that.
They're going to have to get ahead of it at some point.
What about the evidence that shows that they have already lost control completely?
I would agree with that as well.
Yep.
But they still have whatever means of control they have is not like, it's not like one party or the other is in control. They have different entities that they control. And John, maybe we'll get into this in a few minutes with the Maduro stuff, the Venezuela article I sent you, the no transition, all that. But there are parallel things happening right now, and we're not the only country to ever experience this. So they have control of certain things and certain amounts of things. Like they have control of a certain amount of media and no control over all the rest of the media. So they can be projecting certain stories that people will believe and then enact in the world and make real. But that's not the whole story.
That's a good way to put it. I mean, they have these think tanks, and the job of those think tanks is to create the consensus, build the consensus, and they use the media to pretend that the consensus is there from everybody else about this created consensus that these think tanks put forth. And if the whole point of the Great Awakening is for people to stop giving any credence to what the media and these think tanks say is the consensus.
Yeah. And so then you go one step after those think tanks, right? Norm Eisen wrote white papers for the January 6th committee and every one of the Trump lawsuits and indictments. So the attorneys on the regime side processed all these things and made them real lawsuits, quote unquote, and real indictments within the court parts of the court system they control, with a map on how they're going to get through it, or at least tie things up for long enough. So they have a parallel system that they're able to run this stuff and process it through. But that's not the whole system. And that's not even really the system in power. They're just able to, enact like certain amounts of power for certain amounts of time in certain arenas.
To give the media talking points to build the consensus. This is the clip that you're talking about Klaus Schwab.
Cool.
The technology now is, and digital technologies mainly have an analytical power. Now we go into a predictive power, and we have seen the first examples, and your company very much involved into it. But then the next step could be to go into a prescriptive mode, which means you do not even have to have elections anymore, because you can already predict, and afterwards you can say, why do we need elections? Because we know what the result will be.
How do you audit those? Oops.
Fucking A.
Like, how do you sell that to anybody?
Yeah, man. Well, what's the difference between that and what we have now? Only the people's realization about what we have now, So do you have to sell it, or do people just ease their way apathetically into accepting it?
You just have to build,
because that is what we have now.
Yeah. The International Crisis Group will come out with a 90-page paper on why we don't need elections anymore. And then CNN will run with it before you know it.
That was a really long time ago that Schwab said that.
Like a few years ago.
Yeah, just as an aside, Schwab came to my attention in 2018 because Thomas Wichter brought him up. I had never heard of the guy before then. And he is one of the reasons I think that it is possible for the controllers of the narrative to literally insert a human being who previously had not existed in the narrative and back engineer their entire life story, give them an entire media history, because they can simply insert things through the internet. But that's beside the point. But Schwab is pointing out that AI now, or at least, AI then, I don't know when this was, it was probably years ago, is able to, through analytics and predictive modeling, able to tell exactly how everybody's going to vote to a high degree of accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever they're telling us that AI can do, it's been able to do for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's able to do so much more now. And whatever AI is allowed to fall into the hands of us peasants, the AI that's in the hands of the controllers is going to absolutely blow our minds by comparison. And today, I just watched AI on my own smartphone make musicians obsolete. So there's that. And not that I have a big love of musicians. I saw what they did in COVID. Fuck them. But at the same time, it is a major paradigm shift to make it so that AI can make music just as well as any musician.
I wonder, okay, because everything we just discussed, right? Like predicting elections and stuff. I wonder if any of that was used in 2020 to, like, to, okay, well, this is what AI said who would have won the election. You know what I mean?
It's possible. Think about this, though. So if what Trump is doing, if there's something going on behind the scenes, right? If that's our first premise, and if what Trump and team are doing is to be moral and is to be in accordance with like our founding mythology, let's say, then they would have to have some idea of what the people actually want. And of course, they have access to that.
Yep.
Anyone with stand, they once they meet a certain standard of access to information, then above that, they know what we're thinking about these issues at any given time, like collectively in a very real way that they can probably prove with whatever kind of data they have. They would have to be following that and acting in correspondence to that, be responsive to it, be reflecting that. And we've talked about this a number of times in how Trump communicates. But the other thing about that is that makes us the input in a real way, in a way that is more real than us going down to our local high school gymnasium and pressing buttons on an iPad attached to a black box and then putting a sticker on our shirt. That is us interacting with decision makers in a real way, and which means that we actually have to demand better than what we are getting in order to get better. And instead, what we do is grovel and applaud whenever someone on television says nice things about us.
Yeah,
that's a good point, man. I don't know why this just popped in my head, but talking about like the way Trump says things because they have access to more data than anybody else, and the feedback loop that he does. Trump stopped talking about COVID and the COVID vaccines after he won the nomination. That whole issue was DeSantis driven. Have you noticed that?
Yeah,
it didn't occur to me until you said it.
And the idea that Ron DeSantis's kayfabe and that the whole op was and just giving the benefit of the doubt, right? If the entire op was a pro-Trump red team op, then maybe their whole purpose was to push these narratives out against Donald Trump and allow them to dissipate and be destroyed at that stage rather than right now. I'm open to that possibility. Otherwise, they were just directing and targeting the hate movement against Trump and his supporters and using all of the arguments that they would use if they were actually trying to seize power back as the controlled opposition uniparty right.
But if it is the case that DeSantis was an agent of the hate movement and in earnest wanted to take Trump down, why would he have worn those boots?
Gosh, man, I don't know. It's hard to
explain. And also the worst thing he ever did, in my opinion, is when he said, "And I will not let you down."
I love it.
Wait,
Speaking of
do I
red
have
team,
my? You know what I'm talking about? After he he attempts to turn human right in front of us, he goes, "Yeah." I don't really know exactly what he's doing with his mouth, but it creeped me out. Something fierce, like I had nightmares about it. And I don't know why they would zoom in on that unless he was a doomed spy, They turned his ass. They said, "Listen, you little wop, you're going to have to get your ass in front of that camera and make a fool of yourself and make everybody in MAGA hate your guts."
Do you call him a wop?
Yeah.
Yes, that's a derogatory term for an Italian.
Yeah. Well, it's fair to call him Meatball Ron, but anything past that is racist.
Yes, that's true. And
You mentioned red team, and anytime I hear the word red team, I always think of this because we still don't really have definitive answers on what this is about. This is a DoD directive from November 25th, 2020. It's right in the middle of the Devo stuff, and it's OSD red team. It has to do with reestablishing the mission, organization, and management and administration of the OSD red team. And it's in accordance with this June 8th, 2020 memorandum, which isn't public. And that time period is like 7 days after Trump did the St. John's church walk or whatever, right? St. John's, is that the right church?
Yep.
Yeah. With the Bible.
The church walk, the Bible, June 1st, 2020.
Yep.
They still haven't clued us in as to exactly what took place. It was, I believe, Scavino telling us, "You'll know someday."
Yep. I wrote about that in part 7 or 8. But yeah, the June 1st is when we know that the military started being actively involved in surveillance of the protests. But so this is an interesting time period. And a lot of the stuff in here is like still classified. Like there's still interesting things in here that we don't get to know what's actually going on. So you can find a link to this in my part 16.
This would have also been 2 months after the arrow on Trump's favorite chart says
so Trump would not have been president when this happened.
Yeah.
I'm a broken record, guys. Feeding that document to AI and asking it to speculate on what the redacted stuff is would be really, really useful.
Well, here, I'll send it to you and you should do that.
Thanks. If it's in like PDF format, or some kind of format that's not like a JPEG.
It's PDF format. Okay, real quick. So I do want to bring up one more thing since we're kind of talking about Trump and some Devo stuff. There's a comment Trump made today at his Coachella appearance. And I think we should talk about this real quick because we've actually talked about it before. Over a year ago, Trump recently has been saying he's going to use the Eisenhower model to deport all these illegal aliens. And he's been saying that pretty consistently. Prior to saying he was going to use the Eisenhower model, he was saying he was going to use the illegal alien, the Enemy Alien Act. And now he's back to saying the Enemy Alien Act again. Listen to this.
Expedite removal of Trente, Aragua, and other savage gangs. There are many savage gangs. MS-13 is probably even meaner. They don't like using guns. They like using knives. They cut up 2 young girls, beautiful young girls, walking to school in Long Island. They like Long Island for some reason, a lot of them. But ICE got them out, largely got them out. But 2 beautiful young girls walking to school. And they cut them up with knives. They cut them up into little pieces. Both of them died. They didn't want to use a gun because a gun's not painful enough. These are animals. I will invoke the Alien Enemies Act of 1790 to target and dismantle every migrant criminal network operating on American soil.
Can you guys even hear it? It's like really hard to hear.
Very low. It's very low.
It did cut out.
He said he's going to invoke the Alien Enemy Act of 1798 in order to get rid of all the illegal aliens. Okay. The reason this is interesting, and again, I want to show you guys this, prove it. We talked about this on September 25th, 2023. Patrick, you probably don't, neither of you guys probably remember this. We did a whole episode and covered this and why it's important. But just to refresh you guys, the Alien Enemy Act isn't. You want to read this right here?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. The Alien Enemies Act, officially an act respecting alien enemies, was passed to supplement the Alien Friends Act, granting the government additional powers to regulate non-citizens that would take effect in times of war. Under this law, the president could authorize the arrest, relocation, or deportation of any male over the age of 14 who hailed from a foreign enemy country. It also provided some legal protections for those subject to the law. Unlike the other acts, this act was largely unopposed by the Democratic Republicans.
Okay, so the reason this is interesting, number one, times of war. Trump says on day one, he's going to use the Alien Enemies Act. Technically, you need an act of war, right? Well, an act of war already being in place is something that's core to the devolution theory. We've talked about that all the time. How this differs from the Eisenhower model is there was no act of war with that one. I don't even think the military was technically used. I was reading about this before the show and I didn't get to finish, but do you want to read this section?
Implementation and tactics. At its peak, okay, this is from Operation Wetback, 1954.
Yep.
So this is not. So this is an Eisenhower implementation of deportation, but not using the Alien Enemies Act. At its peak, the Bracero program allotted around 309,000 contracts to Mexican laborers. What followed was a series of repatriations under the name Operation Wetback.
Hold on, actually, one thing this is the part I meant. Whoops, right here in this last paragraph.
So you were just being generous to me and letting me say Operation Wetback multiple times?
Yep.
In correspondence with assistance to President Dwight Eisenhower, Harland Carter, head of the Border Patrol, planned Operation Cloudburst, which requested an executive order to mobilize the military to round up illegal entrants at the southwestern border and to raid migrant camps and businesses in the interior of the United States. In deference to the Posse Comitatus Act of 1878, Eisenhower declined to authorize the use of federal troops, instead appointing Army General Joseph May Swing as the Commissioner of the Immigration and Naturalization Service. Eisenhower gave Swing the power to resolve border control issues in order to stabilize labor negotiations with Mexico.
Okay, so am I understanding that right? That so he put the military in charge of the border directly.
I mean, he appointed a general as commissioner of the INS.
Interesting, man.
And
that'd be pretty based if Trump does that. Actually,
yeah, but you can do that, and it's still a civilian position. He's just a military dude.
The difference in my research, and again, I haven't gone balls deep into the Operation Wetback stuff or the Eisenhower model, but it's the difference of an act of war. The Alien Enemies Act requires an act of war, and Trump saying he's going to do that is a big proof to me. I love it.
The question is, I mean, if you look at the actual wording of the portion of the Alien and Sedition Acts, you have to have it, you can deport people from a nation you're at war with. Well, okay, fine. Where are the illegals from? Freaking everywhere. So what do you do?
Who's been bringing them in and letting them in?
There's definitely that. But those are the same people who have the foreign occupation in Washington, D.C. right now, too. So, and those people happen to be at war with the people of the United States of America. Just saying.
That's a valid point, man. No arguments here. Yeah, so interesting. He's using that again. I'm curious if he'll go back to the Eisenhower model or if he'll stick with the Alien Enemy Act now. But I do think the Alien Enemy Act is more significant. What else are we going to go into? Do you want to do the Venezuela stuff?
Hell yeah.
Yes. But before we do that, I want to bring up this point about the campaign yard signs, because I noticed this in my neighborhood, and I bet other people may have noticed it in their neighborhoods as well. And I want to kind of frame this because with the Venezuela stuff and the rest of it, the ultimate takeaway, I think, is how much people's perspective matters. Like the perspective of the people matters a great deal, because what the regime is trying to do explicitly is to create the illusion, or as we'll see it called, the premise of legitimacy among the people in order to have their government installed and put in place. So I go around my neighborhood and I see a bunch of Trump signs, and that's good. And I see virtually no Harris Walls signs anywhere, because the Harris Walls thing is kind of embarrassing. And if you're in a red area, then, and it's kind of like a Trump majority area and everybody knows it, you really have to be a pretty bold liberal at this point to be out there wanting to stir things up with your Harris Walls sign. So a lot of them skip it completely. But what you will see everywhere are yard signs for the school board candidates that happen to align with Harris Walls and that agenda. Like the Harris Walls houses will have all the school board candidates, all the local candidates, the ones that align with that agenda. Everybody who's too embarrassed to put the Harris Walls out there just has the local candidates. They're like trying to slip one in. They're like, we support these people who are going to be elected down at our local level. And this is like our act of defiance to this conservative area. And so I was thinking about this. I was like, what an odd dynamic that these people are afraid to put their Harris Walls signs out there because they don't want to cause trouble. So they're going to try to like seem like they're more with it and more focused on local politics. And they're putting out their school board candidates. One of the major reasons why people hate Harris and Walls is because of what the schools are doing to their children. And so to support school board members that pursue that agenda in some way maybe seems even grosser than the Harris Walls thing.
I love that observation. I think the most interesting thing to me is why is it embarrassing now to have a Harris Walls thing? Like, it's nothing the media's done, right? Where in 2020, I think the media was like demonizing people who were supporting Trump. You had Antifa and the George Floyd riots and all this stuff. They were attacking houses of people who had the Trump signs. They tried to make it something you didn't want to do. Like, people were afraid to wear a Trump hat in an airport. But now it's without any of that, it's naturally, like, natural selection has made it so that people are embarrassed to use a wall sign. And I actually saw the first Harris Wall sign in my area today. I was driving like on some random street I normally don't drive on. And I saw it. I couldn't believe it.
Talking about informational timelines, there will be a point at which that person realizes that Tim Walz is actually a pedophile and Kamala Harris is actually a prostitute. And at that point, it is going to be very uncomfortable that that person in this fake election put a Harris Walz sign outside their house. But they have no idea about it right now, even though everyone else already knows. But that is an informational past that they are trapped in.
But also that type of person, if you have the balls or whatever you have down there, whatever you call yourself, to put that in your yard, like, you're not getting your information from anywhere that's going to disclose that Kamala Harris is a prostitute and Tim Walz is a pedophile.
Yeah, you're going to have to learn it from the real hard knock life you're about to have.
Yeah. That's an interesting point, man. Yeah, so do you think we should, in our private text chat, when we were talking about solutions to this, Patrick, you said we should just burn the houses down, but we think there's probably a more peaceful solution.
I disavow.
So I don't know. What do we do? Maybe I wasn't supposed to disclose that.
No, I say stuff like that all the time. I try not to say it live on the air, but yeah, it pops right out. I'll
say it for you.
Figure out a way to make it socially unacceptable to put lawn signs out for openly communist, child abusing school board candidates. And my solution was a little bit more direct than usual.
Yeah. The thing is, just like, so it's painful to engage with those people. Like, if you were to go and engage with that person and try to ask them, like, why are you supporting pedophilia? You can't do it. It's a painful conversation. You'll never get through to them.
There's a certain portion of the population who cannot ever be brought back.
Yeah.
Their commitment to harming children is all the way down to their core. It's a feature to them, not a bug. And I have no interest in engaging with them. I have only the desire to expose them and make them undesirable generally to society.
I would agree. Awesome. Okay. Well, unless there's anything else on that, let's talk about the Maduro thing. And you're gonna have to like walk us through this, because when you first sent that over, I didn't realize the article was from like 2020.
Yeah.
I was like or 2023.
That was 2023. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So just to throw this out there right off the top of this whole thing, for everyone out there, if this doesn't immediately make sense to you, the last 2 days of my podcast, I have discussed this thing at great length. So the address where you can find it is right on the screen right now. I'm your moderator.substack.com. Check that out if you want to hear the whole explanation. All right. So the other day, CNN put out an article about how Donald Trump and his team were not engaging in any of the formal transition process with the illegitimate administration and the various executive branch agencies that would normally handle a presidential transition. And I suspect that the reason is because Donald Trump doesn't need the memos from all these various agencies that are going to be eliminated. The people working at these agencies, whatever political appointees are there, are going to be eliminated. They will not be asked back. Maybe Trump will give them a chance to prove their worth, but I doubt it. And so they will all be out of jobs. So their purpose in submitting these memos and proposing these different means of transition is to essentially pitch their worth and the worth of their agency to Donald Trump, who wants to eliminate them. It's an interesting article that CNN is reporting Donald Trump is not interested in this transition. Of course, it's not a real election. And Donald Trump never conceded. Donald Trump did not lose. The election wasn't properly certified. Joe Biden was not properly inaugurated. It is entirely possible that we have two governments in parallel playing out. One of them is totally fake, only recognized by the global regime. whose viewpoint is supported by global propaganda media, global control of finance and economics, including sanctions if things go out of line, and then ultimately the force mechanisms like Team America World Police, NATO, UN peacekeeping forces. If all of those control mechanisms have failed by more than 50%, they're not able to keep their programs in place. And we can observe this in other countries around the world, including and especially Venezuela. So Mike Pompeo said we did not need we would have a smooth transition to a second Trump administration. And I posed the question, was that in 2021 or is that in 2025? Or was there, did that already happen? Because one way or another, we're going to assume that he was clued in enough to whatever the plan is. You got that right here?
Yep.
To know what he was talking about at the bare minimum. Go ahead.
There will be a smooth transition to a second Trump administration. Right? We're ready. The world is watching what's taking place here. We're going to count all the votes. When the process is complete, there'll be electors selected. There's a process. The Constitution lays it out pretty clearly.
And by the way, this is November 10th. So this would have been the day after Joe Biden was declared the winner by the AP. And I think the same day that Chris Miller would have been promoted. No, Biden was the 8th. Miller was the 9th. So this is the day after Miller was named as acting Secretary of Defense, which I think is always notable.
World should have every confidence that the transition necessary to make sure that the State Department is functional today, successful and successful with the president who's in office on January 20th, a mid-afternoon, will also be successful. I went through a transition on the front, and I've been on the other side of this. I'm very confident that we will do all the things that are necessary to make sure that the government, the United States government, will continue to perform its national security function as we go forward.
Do you believe there's widespread voter fraud? That the reports that we're getting from Pennsylvania, from Michigan, showing.
Look at this room. But what he said there, like about the national security stuff, that's like national central functions.
Yeah, it is. What did the guy in the mask say?
It's hard to hear. It sounds a little muffled, but let me play it back a little bit.
He's asking about the concerns over the election.
Yeah. And there's about 45 seconds left of this, so we'll play it out.
As we go forward.
Do you believe there's widespread voter fraud? That the reports that we're getting from Pennsylvania, from Michigan, showing vote totals in massive leads or significant leads with 99% reporting are going to be overturned, and that the United States failed to conduct a fraudulent free election?
Rich, I'm the Secretary of State. I'm getting calls from all across the world. These people are watching our election. They understand that we have a legal process. They understand that this takes time, right? It took us 37 plus days in an election back in 2000, conducted a successful transition then. I'm very confident that we will count, and we must count every legal vote. We must make sure that any vote that wasn't lawful ought not be counted. That dilutes your vote if it's done improperly. Got to get that right. When we get it right, we'll get it right. We're in good shape.
The way he says that is interesting. We're getting calls from all over the world. People are like, what the hell's going on? We're gonna count every legal vote.
And what do we see around the world? Does anybody believe that Vladimir Putin or Xi Jinping?
Oh, sorry. I say what you took you out.
Does anybody believe that Vladimir Putin or Xi Jinping or Mohammed bin Salman believe that Joe Biden received 81 million real lawful American votes? Of course they don't. They have intelligence agencies. They don't watch CNN to figure out who's president. And it is just a matter of who they recognize. And if we go through this Venezuela stuff, we will see that the regime recognizes someone as president, and basically they just tell the British Commonwealth nations and a handful of European nations and whatever other colonies those European nations might possess, hey, this is the guy you do business with. And they fund that person and put the militaries that they have access to behind that person. But otherwise, there is nothing about what we'll see with Juan Guaido or with Joe Biden actually being president, doing anything formal or legal or constitutional or the rest of it, having a mandate from the people, having won a real election. None of those things are required for the regime to simply say this guy is the president and then have their allies go along with it.
Well, there's that clip even where Trump was talking about China. I thought I had it in my videos, but I don't. He's like, China thinks I'm playing a trick on them.
Yeah.
Like these world leaders don't give any credence to Biden. Also, this is a very, very interesting point, and it actually reminds me of a post that came out from Bricks News today, which I think is pretty funny. Patrick, going to read this?
Mm-hmm. Chinese President Xi Jinping says, America must stop saying one thing and doing another. Washington should not treat Beijing as enemy.
That was good and almost even kind of respectful.
I tried. I had to thread that needle.
That was good. Which reminds me, last night, Liberty Den, did you hear Trump trying to speak like an Indian? Oh,
I didn't see that.
It was pretty funny. He's trying to like
Ash
impersonate
texted me
Modi.
and said it reminded you of me trying to do an Australian.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. But yeah, this is funny. I mean, I don't have the source of this. Bricks News seems pretty reliable with a lot of their information, but again, no source, so I can't confirm he said that. But if it's true, and he did say this, it's very interesting because this is like, okay, Biden America says we're going to get back into the Iran nuclear deal. We go bomb Iranian-backed militias. It's those contradictions all over the place. The Biden admin says something, but then the Devo administration does something else.
Mm-hmm.
Like these are those contradictions we look for. So this is interesting. World leaders are noticing it.
And many times the fake and illegitimate Biden administration, knowing that they don't have control over a given situation, has to wait until real action takes place and then frame it as something that they did and planned to do and did on purpose. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Okay, let's keep going down this track. And you might have to share your
Cool.
Oh, you did already.
Yep. So I'm just pointing this out as we get into it, okay? So this is the Board of Trustees on the International Crisis Group. This is Lord Mark Malloch Brown. This is Robert Malley, who was he indicted for mishandling classified information?
Yeah, wasn't he the Iran guy?
Yes, the Biden ambassador to Iran. Yeah.
Yeah, he was the lead. He was the lead negotiator on the Iran nuclear deal. He's the head of this. Isn't he the president and CEO of the International Crisis Group? That's where he went after leaving the Obama administration.
Yep.
And then he became the special envoy to Iran under Biden, but he left because I can't remember exactly what he did, but he I think it was mishandling of classified information.
Yes. Yeah. The thing that Trump is charged for in the Jack Smith case. Pickering, State Department. What do we have? Wendy Sherman, State Department. Jake Sullivan, Alexander Soros, George Soros, Bill McRaven. You can just keep going. Okay. Very globalist. Here are their partners: BP, Chevron, MetLife, HSBC, Shell. Okay. So these are major transnational corporate partners, major globalist partners.
And I'm pretty sure Soros was the one who gave like the seed money to this group way back in the day.
That would not surprise me at all, although I have not found that for myself. This group is essentially committed to strategizing color revolutions and how to take over countries. So we spent a bunch of time on this report a couple of months back, maybe July. This is from March 11th, 2020, imagining a resolution of Venezuela's crisis. Now, we don't have to go through this again at all. We can skip to that Axios article from 2023. But let's just go through this paragraph right here and focus in on this first sentence. Patrick, do you want to do the honors?
Oh, certainly do. You got to add it to stage, though, don't you?
Oh, sorry.
Can I show one thing, though, quick, just to show you this?
By all means.
So this is when they started planning the International Crisis Group. George Soros provided $200,000 to finance continued planning activities. So they haven't even launched it yet.
Wow.
And then
1994.
Yep, 1994. And then after they got the proposal, most of those present in London agreed to become board members, and George Soros further pledges seed funding. And then later on again here, In February of 96, Crisis Group establishes its first field presence in the Balkans, financed by a $1 million contribution from George Soros. There you go.
That's amazing. So this is basically the think tank that has been at the tip of the spear as far as the George Soros Color Revolution program goes worldwide. Yeah.
Yep.
Executive summary. Since January 2019, Venezuela has had two competing presidencies and two starkly different views on how its political struggle should be resolved.
Can we just pause there for a moment and just focus on the fact that the global regime, with all those people in the State Department, including Jake Sullivan, who's in the fake Biden administration right now, it says Venezuela has had two competing presidencies. Okay. That is what they do when their guy is not the one really in control in a country. They just declare that there is this other president too. And keep in mind that they are actually pretending this guy is president, because we're going to see them refute that for themselves later.
This is actually fascinating, because if you really think about what happened in 2020, Trump won and was the president, but then they're just like, no, we don't recognize him as president anymore because of elections. Like,
yes, it's the same thing.
The same thing. Fascinating.
It has also had one principal victim, a population exposed to a catastrophic humanitarian crisis. Over a year on, neither side has achieved its goals. President Nicolas Maduro remains in power, crippling sanctions are still in place, and a solution hovers well out of sight, with the government feeling more confident, as shown by its 5 January seizure of the National Assembly, and the opposition harboring unrealistic ambitions of swift regime change. Outside parties should consider stepping up their involvement, presenting a settlement that restores fair political competition, triggers an early presidential election, and incrementally lifts sanctions, and press their respective allies within the country to accept it as a basis for negotiations.
That is astounding.
It is. Can you send me a link to this, by the way?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But think about this, like
I'll
the
post it
state
in the chat too.
Okay, the State Department and these people are the ones that were like, we need to have democracy everywhere. We need to share our democracy with the world, plant the seeds of democracy everywhere. But then they're like, let's just like change the date of an election in another country and do whatever we got to do to get our guy in there. Like they don't give a shit about democracy.
Well, in this report, they also advise different strategies for overturning the election boards and the people that manage elections. They want the election date pushed up. They want to promise that Maduro will leave office if he doesn't, quote unquote, win the election. And the outside parties they're talking about are these energy companies and these banks. They want all of these people and all of these organizations to apply maximum pressure, offer whatever incentives they can offer, threaten whatever punishments they can threaten in order to achieve these goals. And it hasn't worked. This was 4.5 years ago, and Maduro is still there as president.
At first glance.
No. Let's skip past this, and then we'll go to that Axios article, because we're going to see 3 years later, January of 2023, if I'm not mistaken on that date, they announce that that the United States no longer recognizes Juan Guaido as the president.
Guido.
So, yeah. So Trump, in the following State of the Union speech, I think it was 2020, he points up, we could actually, maybe we should watch that couple of minutes of the State of the Union speech. He recognizes Guaido. I can find it probably really easy.
I can
yeah.
find it here.
But so in his State of the Union speech, he recognizes Juan Guaido as the legitimate president of Venezuela. And Trump is there accepting one side of the controlled opposition dynamic, because he's probably getting concessions from the regime to do so. It was the product of a negotiation, because that's how these things actually work. Juan Guaido never ran for president. He was the leader of the National Assembly, which is a quote unquote opposition controlled, which really just means global regime controlled, quasi-congressional body in Venezuela that has virtually no control over anything. So they just announced that this guy was the president.
It's a little faster here.
Nicaraguans and Venezuelans to restore democracy, the United States is leading a 59-nation diplomatic coalition against the socialist dictator of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro.
Nancy's not even happy. Look at that.
Maduro is
I forgot all the white coats in attendance.
Yeah.
an illegitimate ruler, a tyrant who brutalizes his people, but Maduro's grip on tyranny will be smashed and broken. Here this evening is a very brave man who carries with him the hopes, dreams, and aspirations of all Venezuelans. Joining us in the gallery is the true and legitimate president of Venezuela, Juan Guaido. Mr. President, please take this message back to your family.
I can't even.
Yeah. So how do you reconcile this?
How do I?
Yeah. So do you think the regime supports Maduro?
No, I think they support Guaido. And so what they were asking for then of Trump's State Department is to have the United States officially recognize Guaido, because that would help them leverage this case that they're making in that report to the rest of the world, including and especially their investors, because that's who this is really about, right? Like bankers, energy
oil companies, especially.
Yes. Yes. Well, the International Crisis Group is a think tank that is advising how to right the situation in Venezuela to the most powerful people in the world. They cannot get this situation resolved because there is the sovereign nationalists. You know, we talk about sovereign alliance, whatever. There is that behind the Maduro base in Venezuela, and probably the people as well. And they're not able to take that over. So they are trying to exercise maximum leverage. Well, how can they show the rest of the world they have leverage? We're going to get Donald Trump to say that he recognizes Guaido. And Trump's probably like, okay, well, if I do that, you guys have to do this and this and this and this and this. And so they're like, fine, we'll do it. And Trump does it at the State of the Union. And he says, hey, look at that. I've recognized Guaido. What changed? Nothing. Why don't my people believe it? Why doesn't anybody care? Why didn't this change the reality in Venezuela? Who's to say? But he did the thing that was asked of him in that negotiation. He accepted one side of the controlled opposition dynamic, and now his hands are completely clean on this situation in Venezuela as we see it reverse.
That is fascinating. And take a look at this. This is from Trump's like Twitter and Truth Social archive. There's a couple interesting ones from going back to here's one in 2020. So this is a couple months after this report comes out, because it came out in March. So Patrick, you want to read this one?
Wow.
Yup. Unlike the radical left, I will always stand against socialism and the people of Venezuela. My admin has always stood on the side of freedom and liberty and against the oppressive Maduro regime. I would only meet with Maduro to discuss one thing: a peaceful exit from power.
And then this is from July of this year.
The State Department put a bounty on Maduro for $15 million, but crazy Kamala and crooked Joe are paying him billions of dollars for his oil instead of using our own, which is much better. America needs a strong leader. People who need peace and freedom from tyranny around the world depend on it. MAGA 2024.
Yeah, he had another one here. It's pretty much a lot of the same, calling out Kamala for dealing with him. Okay, let's keep going on this report.
I'm kind of curious as to whether or not our oil really is better than theirs.
I don't know, but I think it's all about sit go.
Do you want to explain that?
I don't have a lot of explaining to do. It's just that I think that different energy companies are vying for different deposits around the world. And, you know, we have what we see pattern wise is a bunch of proxy states being returned, having the global regime kicked out, and those proxy states being like reassumed by the major states that they used to be a part of before they were captured colonies of the regime. And so we see, I believe, Guyana being returned to Venezuela in the same way that we would see parts of Ukraine being returned to Russia and Taiwan eventually being returned to China, as Hong Kong was. The same pattern plays out everywhere. Different versions of the same story play out everywhere. What we're talking about right now, is how this stuff actually works and gets decided.
All right. Is there any more of the report that you want to read or go through?
No. I just wanted to point out and highlight the idea of two presidencies, because that report is essentially a strategy document and a sales pitch to their investors and partners about what the program is, what they're going to try to accomplish down there. They always call their side the opposition when they don't control a nation, and they make it sound like it's a movement of the people.
Yeah.
Each and every time, it never is.
Well, I think
Except to the extent that they are able to propagandize the people into going along with their program, usually as the result of prolonged economic warfare through sanctions that cripples the economy and causes the people to suffer greatly.
Yeah, and a lot of the times, like if I'm being honest, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but like in the past, when, for instance, Trump gave that speech about who's the real legitimate president in Venezuela, I honestly didn't give a shit. Like I didn't care about what's going on down there, and I would wager that most of the people in our country, unless you're from Venezuela, probably don't care either. So it's really just about building that consensus, like we talk about, and getting the media to report on it and put pressure on, the political people in power to do those sanctions and get whatever they need done. But when it happens here, and the parallels are crazy, like think of the color revolutions they use and start by the group like the International Crisis Group and all the players that overlap, and then how they did this stuff in Ukraine, and Norm Eisen writing the actual playbook and his involvement in everything here, from impeachment to all these Jack Smith cases. Like the overlap is insane.
It's insane. Yeah. It's just one program.
Yeah.
And it's mostly a media program. They are writing the stories that they expect us to believe.
And that's why it's so important, the fifth generational warfare stuff that we talk about, the irregular warfare, the Great Awakening, which that leads us to a kind of our final topic that we haven't gotten to yet, which is...
Hold on. So we can get to I didn't mean to cut you off, but I don't want to leave the subject yet.
Okay, no, let's keep going then.
Okay. So first off, if it is this narrative warfare, one of the most important things to be able to do is to call their narrative, their point of view, fake, because it is fake. They are lying on purpose to deceive people, to get them to do something. The best way out of that is not to argue the details about what they're saying about shit they made up. The best way to do that is to call it fake. But I really, really think we should go through that Axios article, John.
Which one?
The one that I sent you yesterday from 2023 about the U.S. no longer. I can also pull it up if it's.
Yeah, why don't you pull it up? I don't have to go dig for it.
Okay.
But this is the Biden one where he doesn't recognize.
Yes.
Okay. I might have that here.
I have it in the chat right there. I don't know if I highlighted it at all, but. And it's not a long article. This will take us 5 minutes, but I think it's well worth it. I think it's well worth it because it's easy here to see what is required for an illegitimate regime to no longer be recognized in any way. And it's only a matter of belief. And we continue to breathe life into the legitimacy of the Biden-Harris fake administration and the process in general, because we just simply can't let it go for whatever reason. We're not willing to call this stuff fake because we think immediately there's no way we could ever access power again. And it's crazy.
So is this after 4 or 5 years of them trying to convince everybody?
3 since Trump said it. This would be 3 since Trump recognized Guaido at the State of the Union, and 4 since they tried to overthrow Maduro in 2019.
But then, so they say this in 2023, but then in 2024, they have another election and try to do the same thing again.
Well, yeah. And you're going to see some of that because this is part of that building stage. This was a year and a half prior to that election. And so there's still, you can even read in this article how they're trying to influence the election in the same way they were in that crisis group report.
Interesting. All right, Patrick, you good?
From Axios, U.S. no longer recognizes Guaido as Venezuela's president. Biden official confirms. This is January 4th, 2023. The U.S. is following the lead of Venezuela's opposition lawmakers and no longer considering Juan Guaido as the country's legitimate leader after the opposition-controlled National Assembly voted to dissolve the interim government, a senior U.S. State Department official confirmed to Axios on Wednesday. Why it matters. Guaido never truly held the levers of power in Caracas.
There you go.
What's that?
What does that say right there?
There you go.
He never truly held the levers of power.
Just
How
like
can
Biden.
it be? Yeah, we were told he was president. What does this mean?
Anyway, sorry, Patrick, for interrupting.
Exciting. But U.S. policy, and his support with the Republican within the fractured opposition had been slipping for years. But U.S. policy and, crucially, the opposition's claim to billions in Venezuelan assets overseas were still based around the premise of Guaido's legitimacy.
They did it for money. They had their money frozen. They had their money frozen, and U.S. policy was dependent on pretending that the fake president was the real president, so they weren't interacting with Maduro. It's so dumb.
Wait, whose money was frozen? Guido's?
The opposition's claim to billions in Venezuelan assets overseas. And so that means all of the regime aligned entities in Venezuela had their assets cut off. And so that's why they stopped recognizing Guaido. They literally got trounced in a negotiation here. And this is them admitting defeat publicly.
Who froze them, though? What countries froze them?
Probably Maduro, and who knows, maybe Trump.
Well, yeah,
Maybe
that'd be
Russia,
interesting to
maybe
find out.
China.
Like,
I don't know. Yeah, we can try to find out. I didn't chase that down.
okay, anyway.
Driving the news, opposition lawmakers voted 72 to 29 on Friday to pull the plug on the, quote, interim presidency 4 years after the Trump administration and dozens of other countries had backed Guaido's bid to displace Nicolas Maduro. Guaido's allies warned that the move would compromise the opposition's international legitimacy and risk the overseas assets falling into Maduro's hands. But others in the opposition noted that Guaido's government had failed to produce democratic elections and was never intended to be permanent.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
It's a little teaser trailer to US 2025.
Yeah.
What the hell, guys? Do I go to? You want to go to between the lines?
No, go to but.
Okay.
Right. Oh no, you already did that. Yeah. So yeah, let's close it out. It's not long.
The step put the U.S. in an awkward position. While the Biden administration has softened its approach to Maduro and promoted dialogue with the regime, it had continued to treat Guaido as its primary interlocutor, even as governments in Europe and Latin America stopped recognizing him.
So that's amazing. So they're still the U.S. was still pretending Guaido was the president, even though Latin American and European countries simply stopped recognizing him as such. Did that require some act of the Venezuelan constitutional process? Did it require an election? Did it require a military coup or anything? Nope. It was just like Ecuador was like, yeah, guys, that's not the president. It's amazing.
Okay, look at this. So this is from the LA Times. UK court recognizes Guaido, but Venezuela gold assets remain frozen.
That's so crazy that the UK courts didn't make Maduro give them back all their shit.
And so the UK Supreme Court was deciding who controls $2 billion of gold.
They were saying they did. Of course, that's an abstract power projection that international court matters. As soon as real power is called to account for abstract power, projection, the abstract power immediately disappears because it's not real.
This is okay. We should almost read this real quick, Patrick, because this is like Venezuela and their leadership is based on what this UK court determines is in control of the money.
Okay. London. The UK Supreme Court ruled Monday that Venezuelan opposition leader Juan Guaido. But real quick, what is the date of this article?
The December 2021.
Thank you. Ruled that leader Juan Guaido should be recognized as the nation's interim president in a case that will ultimately determine who controls almost $2 billion of gold held by the Bank of England. A 5-judge panel unanimously agreed that British courts must honor the UK government's 2019 decision to recognize Guaido as interim president. The question is central to the case because Guaido and President Nicolas Maduro have named separate boards to oversee Venezuela's central bank, and both have laid claim to the gold. But the case isn't over. The Supreme Court sent it back to a lower court to decide whether the Guaido board has any legal standing after Venezuela's Supreme Tribunal of Justice declared Guaido's appointments unconstitutional. Guaido said he welcomed the ruling and looked forward to demonstrating why the UK courts shouldn't recognize the decisions of the Supreme Tribunal. Quote, "When we so demonstrate, the board appointed by President Guaido will assume control of the reserves and protect them from the depredations of the usurper Maduro regime," he said in a statement. Guaido, then leader of Venezuela's National Assembly, challenged Maduro's claim to the presidency, arguing that his 2018 election was rigged and invalid.
Okay, we can probably stop here. I found another article. I won't actually read it or make you read it, Patrick, but I'll send it to you, Chris, because it's interesting. It talks about how this is from January of this year, or 2023. The gold is still frozen in the Bank of England, even though, like, I don't know. Just this is interesting. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, send it to me.
Are we reading it?
No.
Okay.
There's like, I think 4 more bullet points that we should hit. The next 4 in the Axios article.
Okay, there was more. Sorry.
Yeah, there's just a couple more little sentences. I just really want to hammer home this point, right? Just to make it absolutely clear that the regime can recognize someone as the president and get their allied organizations, governments, people, entities to go along with their program. They can tell people, don't do any business with the Maduro government down in Venezuela, but talk to Guaido and his people. They will set things up. We have this whole bureaucratic administrative state here in the United States of America that Donald Trump is going to get rid of by and large. Most of it's unconstitutional. It shouldn't exist. No one wants it. They essentially run our country through a bunch of administrative rules and regulations. It's not constitutional. Again, that should be absolutely clear. And so Biden, to the extent that he is quote unquote president at all, he is president in that he is recognized by the regime. He is backed by their media, their money, and doesn't seem like their military, but nobody really wants to go there. And to the extent he has control, it's over that bureaucratic administrative state that has some degree of power in certain areas of our society. But beyond that, if you want to get down to the base layer, the constitutional layer of what's legitimate, they don't exist on that layer at all. And there are parallel examples in the rest of the world where that is taking place. We just don't believe that it could happen in America, even though we were told Joe Biden is there because he received 81 million real lawful American votes, which is insane.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
All right. Where do we leave off?
It's just these 4 right there.
Okay.
Let's see here. Department declined. Okay. After the vote, spokespeople for the White House and State Department declined to say directly whether the U.S. was dropping its recognition of Guaido. Instead, they said the U.S. recognized the National Assembly elected in 2015, which Guaido had led, as Venezuela's, quote, only remaining democratically elected institution.
Nice wordplay.
Yep. However, the senior State Department official told Axios on Wednesday, quote, the 2015 National Assembly recognizes Guaido as one of its members, not as interim president, as the interim government no longer exists. So we're following their lead.
Wow.
But
they should have just ended with, so there's that.
Latin American and European countries decided to stop recognizing him even before we did. Consider what that means.
Crazy.
The National Assembly is currently in the midst of making internal decisions regarding its own leadership, so we're going to wait and see how that plays out, the official said.
It didn't work.
Yeah, apparently not. The U.S. will continue to communicate with Guaido and other like-minded members of the opposition, the official added. We'll stay friends, we can still be friends.
And check this out right here.
This part.
Guaido's presidency became a self-perpetuating thesis, said Phil Gunson, an international crisis group analyst in Caracas.
Well, and this next bullet point is like exactly what the Biden administration was.
Let's keep going.
His mission to quickly replace Maduro had failed. He'd lost public confidence, and he lacked the support of 3 of the 4 major opposition factions. But his international backing and control of some government assets seemed to make him immovable, Gunson told Axios.
But the public confidence part, that's a regular warfare again. It comes back to that. Like you're battling for the mind of the people. And it's to erode at the confidence of the current administration. That's part of Color Revolution playbook too.
Yes.
It's insane, man.
Yeah, so it's just a matter of whether or not they can get that. It is all the court of public opinion, and yet we are still groveling and trembling over fake elections.
Yeah, which, speaking of which, can I show that thing you sent over, Chris? Should I? The West Virginia?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That thing's amazing. This is proof of the same thing happening in the United States.
All right. Let's make sure that we don't get so fast that it gets lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
What does this mean before I start reading it? What's the gist?
This is a House resolution from just like a week ago or so, where the West Virginia legislator is basically saying that if we think there was fraud in another state, we will not recognize that person as president if they get the most.
This is amazing.
All
right.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see what it says. House Concurrent Resolution 203 by delegates Redenor, Mazzocchi, Dillon, Longenecker, Coop Gonzalez, Foster, Foggin, Steele, and Butler, introduced October 6, 2024, referred to the Committee on the Judiciary, requesting that the West Virginia legislature shall not recognize an illegitimate presidential election, whereas a constitutionally valid government only exists and endures when elections are conducted in accordance with all applicable legal requirements and are free of violence or threats of violence, government manipulation, censorship, coercion, fraudulent voting, or manipulation of votes, election tabulation, and or election results by any means whatsoever, and that whereas in the 2024 election cycle, there have been to date 2 assassination attempts on the Republican nominee for president of the United States, while threats of assassination of the Republican nominees for president and vice president abound. The federal government under the current Democrat-led regime has utterly failed and continues to fail in a suspicious manner in its absolute duty to adequately protect the Republican nominee for president, and that whereas the constitutions of the United States and the state of West Virginia require that only legal citizens may vote in U.S. and West Virginia elections, and that there is abundant evidence that non-citizens have been and are being registered to vote in the national election of 2024. Therefore, be it resolved by the legislature of West Virginia that the sovereign state of West Virginia declares it will not recognize an election for president if such election is enabled by illegal or fraudulent acts, and be it further resolved that the state of West Virginia will not recognize any election of the Democrat candidate for president during the 2024 election cycle if the Republican presidential or vice presidential candidate is assassinated, seriously injured during an assassination attempt, incarcerated, de facto eliminated, or barred from the ballot in any states or is the subject of legal actions that preclude their effective campaigning, and be it further resolved that the state of West Virginia will not recognize an election of a candidate for president during the 2024 election cycle if the Attorney General of West Virginia or the Secretary of State of West Virginia, in consultation with the West Virginia legislature, determine that election fraud in any state was a major reason that resulted in a candidate for president obtaining a majority in the Electoral College. Election fraud includes non-citizen voting, vote buying, ballot forgery, illegal or illicit ballot harvesting, illegal or illicit discarding of legal votes or voter registrations, ballot miscounts, algorithmic manipulation of votes or vote tabulations, cyber attack or manipulation or intimidation. Election fraud also includes interference by any government entities, including arrests or prosecutions for apparent political motives or other forms of persecution, using legal or official processes to negatively affect an electoral process or a political entity participating in an electoral process being unconstitutional, extra-constitutional, illegal, or otherwise illegitimate means, including those under the color of law or office, and be it further resolved that the state of West Virginia will not recognize an election of a candidate for president if the Attorney General of West Virginia or the Secretary of State of West Virginia, in consultation with the West Virginia legislature, determine that election interference by the federal government, foreign governments, or other state governments was a key factor that resulted in a candidate for president obtaining a majority in the Electoral College. Election interference includes censorship, information suppression or manipulation, or other unconstitutional, extra-constitutional, illegal, or otherwise illegitimate actions by the federal government, foreign governments, or other state governments, either directly or in collusion with elements of the media, social media entities, information entities, or political entities, and be it further resolved thereupon a determination by the legislature of West Virginia, in consultation with the Attorney General and Secretary of State, of either the illegal or illicit elimination of the Republican presidential or vice presidential candidate during the 2024 election cycle, or election fraud or election interference resulting in the constitutionally illegitimate election of a president during the 2024 election cycle. The legislature will be called into special session by the governor to consider actions to preserve the freedom of our people. Further resolved.
That's basically it. The last two are just that they're going to transmit it to the Congress.
All right, I
Great
got
job,
that.
Patrick.
All right, West Virginia, I would like you very much to codify what you're going to do when you say we don't recognize this election. What are you going to do with federal employees?
They're going to consider actions to preserve the freedom of our people. This is so awesome. And the thing that stood out to me is this part right here, where they talk about what election fraud is and goes through all this stuff, right? Check out this. You guys will probably remember this from back in 2020, December 13th of 2020, when Trump talked about the election being under protest. It's like the same list. It's like they copied it.
Yeah.
Dead people, blow-age people, illegal immigrants, fake signatures, prisoners. Many others voted illegally. Also machine glitches, ballot harvesting, non-resident voters, fake ballots, stuffing the ballot box, votes for pay, roughed up poll watchers, sometimes more vote than people voting. Yeah, it goes on. And it ends with votes can't be certified. This election is under protest.
Yeah. And so everything that they just listed has already happened in this fake election cycle. And because this is a fake election cycle, and this is probably there to mean something, that means we should also notice that that all happened in 2020. And so the only connective tissue that we are missing is states doing this in 2020.
Yep. Or
so we should
somebody else doing it for them, like a president.
No, you really think about it though, guys. A state formally saying, we're out. We're not even sending you electors. We don't recognize you as president, and you have no authority over any of these FBI field offices you have. We're going to shut them down pending you getting your shit together, because we're not part of this compact anymore. That's secession. That is a secessionist resolution that I just read.
It's also interesting when you think of like all the reasons that Trump's cases didn't move forward. I mean, a lot of those cases were shitty, but some of the arguments from the courts were you don't have standing, right?
Yeah.
How does that make any sense?
It's madness.
Because there is their government, their false fake government, layered over the constitutional republic on which we were founded. The argument in Our Secret Constitution by Columbia Law School professor George P. Fletcher, written about 25 years ago, is that that Abraham Lincoln fought the Civil War to invert the purpose of our Constitution, and they did that with the Reconstruction Amendments. It was changed from a republic into a democracy. The focus went from the individual and their freedom and liberty to the good of the state, and it went from freedom to equality. So the focus from the individual to the state, I should say, and the focus from freedom to equality. And in those Reconstruction Amendments, the liberal, communist, Zionist Columbia professor argues that the original Constitution was inverted and replaced with a new secret shadow constitution. And I would submit that that is what we believe our country to be now. That is not our actual country. And it is a matter of deciding in the court of public opinion which of those actually is the country, because the other one will stop having power immediately. Well, certainly the abstraction will stop having power, but people aren't willing to do it. It's not even hard. All you got to do is be like, yeah, that is totally illegitimate. And I'm going to tell everybody else I know that's illegitimate. And if they ask me to do something, I'm not going to do it. If they tell me I have to do something, I'm going to tell them to go fuck themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not giving my money to pedophiles.
And that's what we do here at Badlands Media, everybody.
We not do that. Yeah.
Well, wait. Which part?
Well, right after you said we're not going to give money to pedophiles, you responded by saying that's what we do at Badlands Media.
I meant like everything you said about like fuck you to the government.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
Not the pedophile part.
Yeah.
By the way, you're only saying fuck you to the fake government.
Yep.
Yes, that my state government is an entirely different fuck you.
Yeah, well, yes, that is definitely true. And that has to be handled. The other thing worth noticing about this West Virginia legislature resolution is that the states actually do retain the right to determine that the federal government is illegitimate. And the state cannot exercise any right that is not first held and then delegated by the people, which means the people retain the right to declare that the government is illegitimate. In fact, Thomas Jefferson said we not only have that right, but that it is our duty to do it. And we're like, no, the federal government says it's legitimate. And and they say that if we say they aren't, then we're insurrectionists.
And they won't let us be on platforms.
More of our stuff. Yeah.
That's crazy. Anyway, we were going to talk about weather ruining marriages.
Oh, yeah.
But I feel like this is a good note to end on here, and maybe we save that for next week.
Well, I mean, it's not a long conversation. I just
know,
think
man, we don't normally go this short, but you know.
Oh, well, I guess they didn't really talk. Well, we can talk about it.
Well, we haven't even done rants yet, to be fair.
We haven't done rants, and we haven't talked about beard oil or rainfall smooth. So you know, there's that.
Okay, well, let's do that first, because this is a solution to save marriages. It's the beard oil and the epic minerals. And then we'll talk about
guys. I predict my wife and I used a whole bunch of Canva and stuff to produce a new ad for tulipblooms.shop, and I'd like you to check it out right now. Here we go.
At Tulip Blooms, we believe in more than just skincare. We believe in freedom. We believe in natural products made by Americans for Americans, using nature's finest ingredients to help you feel your best. Each Tulip Blooms product is carefully crafted with pure organic ingredients, no chemicals, no compromises, just clean, natural skincare you can trust. We know what matters to you: freedom, family, and a healthy way of life. That's why every purchase at tulipblooms.shop supports American jobs and a brand that values your freedom. Join the movement. Support a company that believes what you believe in. Visit tulipblooms.shop today. Tulip Blooms, natural skincare for patriots. promo code Badlands for 10% off.
Can I
Guys,
make
the
a
freaking beard oil,
suggestion?
the beard oil is freaking amazing. And we've got a new version of Rainfall that is it's a smoother application thing. And we've got an additional, a buy one, get one half off if you do promo code Badlands for the Rainfall Smooth. Check that out. And the beard oil, buy one, get one 20%, 15% off, I think. But go to tulipblooms.shop, use promo code Badlands. And guys, I'm going to be sending you your own beard oil. This stuff is amazing. Has castor oil, tea tree oil in it. Whole bunch of different stuff that I can use on my scalp and stuff that just heals all sorts of stuff. It's fantastic.
Patrick, can I suggest maybe like some light music in that ad read?
Yeah, we haven't been able to pick the music yet, but we're working on it.
Okay.
For sure. There will be.
Yeah, get your stuff, guys. Support those who support us.
Damn straight.
Okay. So when we were texting back and forth earlier, it got brought up how I think Chris, you made the comment that like the weather is tearing people apart or something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we were just kind of talking about how liberals' brains were cracking.
And I think it's funny because earlier this last week, I got a text from one of our longtime followers, or it wasn't even a text, it was a Twitter DM. And they're like, yeah, so my daughter last night, 35, she watched Badlands for the first time and she loved it. And but as the conversation went on, the reason she watched it was because of the hurricane stuff and the weather manipulation. And she made the comment that, you know, the weather, the hurricane stuff is like waking up more people than anything these last few years. Like more people are talking about whether it's the weather manipulation itself or the government sending money overseas, but not having money for the North Carolina residents. That's what's doing it. And so I thought it was interesting you made that comment, and I thought we could hear more from whatever you're experiencing.
Well, I just think it's one of those moments where everybody understands that everybody else sees the same thing. And it's one of those moments where like you look at the person next to you who hasn't admitted to any of this shit, being wrong about anything over the last 4 years. And it's like, come on, man. Like, this isn't even partisan. Like you can see what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's not
I'll say right now,
Trump.
You know, I don't, we're talking about the weather, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I still don't know if they can really, really make hurricanes happen.
Okay.
But I don't know that they can't either. I see evidence to support the idea that there is definitely weather manipulation capabilities. I don't know the extent of those capabilities. I do know that evil governments sure do get a benefit from the people thinking they can control the weather. So that's something to consider as well. But my wife and I talk about it all the time. And my wife, by the way, has been the most staunch denier of weather manipulation. She says, that's horseshit. It's not true. And after this last stuff happened in North Carolina, she's coming around to it. And with no help from me, because I'm a complete agnostic on weather manipulation.
That's surprising, you being agnostic about like anything with this stuff.
I stick with things that I think I can prove. I really do. Like, seriously, flat Earth is like one of the only things that you can just prove.
Here's what I urge you to do. On Monday, we did a Baseless Conspiracies episode about this. Like, there's patents going back like to the 1940s. There's all sorts of stuff.
There's a patent for time travel too. You can
Dubai,
anything.
Dubai, just this last summer in April, they had like record flooding because they were using weather seeding or whatever, cloud seeding, and they caused rain.
And I'll stop and I'll just make sure I make it clear. Cloud seeding is for sure a thing. They can make it rain. I'm saying I don't know if they can make hurricanes. That's a very big distinction.
Okay, but if you can do that, and like think of your argument earlier about the AI stuff, like what we see and what's available to us, like the stuff they admit to, like that's imagine what they have behind the scenes. Our military, use weather warfare.
And I'm sympathetic to that point of view. I don't go all the way to saying I know they can make hurricanes. There's a chance, maybe they can. If they were able to do it in the 50s, I'm sure it's a bunch more sophisticated now. Can they make hurricanes? I don't know. And it just drives me nuts that the truth community calls me a weather manipulation denier for simply saying, I don't know if they can make hurricanes.
It's just funny coming like of you of all people, I would have expected to be the first one to be like,
no, I am not. No, I am not credulous. I actually do have high standards of proof.
Okay, that's fair. I like that. Okay, check. This is what you sent over, Chris.
Yeah, I got sent that yesterday, maybe by Artsy Joan. I think she's in the chat. She was watching Daily and sent this my way.
It lays the predicate and the foundation for the development of a weather satellite that will permit man to determine the world's cloud layer and ultimately to control the weather. And he who controls the weather will control the world.
Lyndon B. Johnson.
Yep.
Wow.
1962.
We have John Brennan saying we can do it last week.
Yeah.
The government saying they can control the weather and actually controlling the weather are two different things.
Very true.
And I believe very strongly they can seed the clouds. I believe strongly they can make it rain. Can they make hurricanes and steer the fuckers into red states? I'm not on board with that yet.
And that's like, to me, that's not even, I don't even need to go there with anybody. It's our government. You've been supporting our government, sending billions and billions and billions of dollars overseas to fund a war in Ukraine, to fund Israel. Like they just sent money overseas. Like I think a day after the hurricane stuff happened, they were like, the State Department was like, oh, we're just sending more money to Libya or whatever. But they can only give $750 to residents in North Carolina, and FEMA's out of money. They just did another $4.2 billion COVID grant or something in October of this year, the most they've done in a year. Like, what the hell is that? That's the stuff that you can argue with people. Like, how do you make sense of this? Why is our government funding other countries? Why are we still funding COVID stuff, and we don't have money for actual Americans in need in the Carolinas? Who cares about the weather, but even though it's interesting fun to talk about.
It's really amazing. And sometimes you have to just think to yourself, how much of this is just that the people who hold the purse strings really are that wicked? And how much of it is just thrown open for us all to see? Because it's remarkable how much these crooks in Congress just need to just loot the treasury before they finally get hauled off to Guantanamo Bay.
Oh.
And they'll send everything to Ukraine, which is just a money laundering operation. And they don't give a fuck about the poor people in North Carolina being just destroyed by this natural disaster.
Yeah. Anyway, anything else on that, Chris?
Oh no, I mean, but my takeaway was just that it was one of those things that was really separating people. It's one of the things that people assume that everyone should be able to admit. Like, yeah, of course, there's a possibility that this is happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you really can't admit this. You think the whole thing for you is going to fall apart if you admit this? I don't know.
Yeah, that is an interesting thing. Is this your line? This is your hill to die on, eh?
Yeah. And they think everybody is stupid for believing that weather manipulation is possible. That's the direction they are still going in. Like, if you're the people who are masking up so that they would not kill a grandma in 2020 are now calling people stupid because they believe in weather manipulation.
Good point. It's funny, man. All right. Well, we got some boosts and rants to go through.
Let's get
Don't forget to hit that thumbs up, everybody.
Yeah, hit the hell out of it, guys. Let's get number one again.
Yeah, where did I put those boosts? We had a couple. Oh, let's go to the website again. Hold on. And Patrick, did you pull up the rants tonight?
I actually did, but about 30 minutes late. So
Okay. I'll get some of the earlier ones.
I've got starting at 9:44 p.m. Central Time.
All right, let me do the boost first. We got Jen Lawrence, $25. John or BB, any word about adding more tickets to Myrtle Beach as mentioned on Liberty Den? There are 2 available in GART 5 group, but as a set, and I only need 1. We're still figuring out how we want to handle this. We're not sure yet. We are close to sold out. This is gonna be our biggest GART ever yet, by the way, guys. So
wow, bigger than Deadwood.
Yeah, bigger than Deadwood. We have, at last I looked, we had 12 tickets left. I think it's less than that now. We could potentially get more space. We're just not sure. So I need to talk to Mrs. Bright about this before I say anything. I shouldn't have said anything last night either, but we'll get back to you on that. This next week we'll have a decision made on it. what's the date today? The 12th. Okay, I think that's actually all of the ones from. I think we're caught up on boosts. Yep, we are. Okay. What's the first rant you got, Patrick?
I have Vera Bira 1, 9:44 p.m.
Okay, there's only 2 you missed before that, and I'll just share my screen quick.
Beautiful. Okay, so the ones I missed before that are,
On the-
let us begin. $10, Teal Nation 98. I ain't leaving no evidence because the stick came with a shell catcher. If my partner flipped your shit, then I'm paying that little bail. Yeah.
I don't get it.
That was delightfully Dadaist. Thank you so much. $5, Melindy. Well, what do we have here? And then something from Joe Rogan HQ. So John will grab that, and I will go to my own rant page.
It's a Joe Rogan podcast asking if anybody wants to see Trump on the podcast. And then while we were live, there was something that came out from the Nelk Boys or something. Patriots in Control posted it here. Yeah, this.
Joe Rogan has to have you on.
Yeah.
Would you do that?
Oh, sure, I would.
I think Joe, like, besides us, Joe's
I think
obviously-
I'm doing it. Actually.
Yeah.
that'd
So
be
you
great.
are going to do Joe Rogan?
Yeah, I am.
Joe Rogan's the best in the game for sure. And I think, you know,
Did
him
Joe
having-
become so well known because of the UFC? And he does a great job with that.
Well, he confirmed he's doing Joe Rogan, so that'll be fun. I can't wait for Joe. Why is nobody talking about this stuff, Trump?
Oh, God, it's going to be so horrifying. All right. $20. Vera Bira 1 for Canadian Thanksgiving. And I'm thankful for you all. God bless. Where we go one, we go all. And we're grateful for you. We love our neighbors to the north.
Well,
$20.
Some
yeah,
of
some of them. You guys, the ones in Canada who are fans of us, they're the ones we love. $20. Nell P. He said the day before in Scranton, Biden hates Kamala. There's going to be an explosion. Somebody should pull that up.
You missed a couple of these here.
Did I really?
Yeah.
That's weird. I don't know why it would do that, but let's see here. $5 back quarter. Only way Wall's video gets worse if he looks down the barrel, which he didn't. Thank you very much. $2, Dirk McGurkin. Tim Walls hates the shotgun. He likes to take it under center. Delightful.
Football joke and
Delightful.
Kitty Diddler joke.
$5. It's Tony, man. Best karma video ever. It's a Rumble video.
Yep. It's titled "Watch as Trump Hater Chad Gets Instant Karma." We'll check that out and maybe we'll play it here at the end.
Boomer 63. If they can postpone the election, Hillary's involvement is highly possible. Guys, I don't even think they have to postpone it. But yeah, I agree. $1 PJW. Patel Patriot. You have some new people in chat. Can you drop a link to the early videos of PG reading your series?
I could post the
link.
Devolution.link. They're in there. I could post the recap link playlist here. Hold on.
Oh, listen, my wife is in chat right now with me right now, and she's just making sure everybody wants to know it's an extra 15% off for Rainfall Smooth, extra 10% off for all body butters. I got that wrong in the ad, so sorry about that, and I'll put it in chat too.
All
Don't
right.
you love it when the sponsor's watching you read the ad? Okay. Anyway, let's moving on. $20 LP L Phillips. Just because I'm up working night shift, so I get to listen live. Thanks for all the hard work, gents. Thank you so much. $1 TJ Kibbles. I've got a Space Force lawn sign. Nice.
That's cool.
$10 Thomas Time 76. Rumble says I can't do a $5 rant because you already own this item. It's an error that pops up. I guess you have to use a different dollar amount every time because once you do it the first time. Thank you for doubling it to 10.
Appreciate you.
Yeah. $10 Artsy Joan. What if this cheat will prove last cheat? Trump will let them cheat again, but this time the movie is over and he will expose it all. Methods and players, just a thought. Great show, guys. God bless. That sounds feasible to me.
So we've been talking about it's like the midterms. So
$1, Keith O'Higgins. Alexander Downer is on that list and was instrumental in the George Papadopoulos sting.
Yep.
Indeed.
He was one of the globalists on the International Justice Crime, whatever the crime group.
National Justice League group.
Yeah, Dumbo Downer. $2, Dirk McGurkin. 2 presidents at one time? What about 2 popes at one time? What might that mean? I don't know.
Don't know.
But that friggin' switcheroo on the popes was freaking weird, guys. And we didn't ever get a really good explanation for that.
What's switcheroo?
You know, when they switched out Ratzinger for Bergoglio.
They there was
Catholic.
there was an HBO show called the New Pope, and then the second season was called The Young Pope, or maybe I have that backwards. But there were 2 popes in that. That's a brilliant series, by the way. It's a little provocative intentionally, but
That's what you're saying. Okay.
All right. And next up, we have $15, 1027 JS. Thanks,
Joe.
And thank you. $5, another 179. A friend of mine is a major Trump hater. An immediate family member of his is a lawyer at the DOJ. He's a major Trump hater as well. He's confronted me about Trump since 2016. A week ago, I finally got him to pause during one of his rants. I connected Dems to the trans push in elementary schools. He had never made that connection before. An extended family member of his has a young boy that now wants to be a girl. My friend says he is telling the parent, his family member, not to let the kid ruin his life. He thanked me for shedding some light on that. He now seems to respect my Trump stance.
I'm surprised they didn't know that it was the Dems pushing that.
No, they don't. That's something that I think we in our community need to be more observant of. I'm bubbled. I don't talk to anybody outside my bubble, and I like it that way, and fine. But if you go outside the bubble, they don't know anything. They don't know anything. It's amazing how much information they can avoid.
Yeah. I've been saying I had the conversation with a liberal for the first time in like years, just this last weekend, and it was very eye-opening. And I loved every second of it because you don't get that opportunity often. But it's just, I felt like I was talking to Rachel Maddow the entire conversation. It was so bad.
Horrifying. $17. Feb 18. Always enjoy the show. Thank you so much. $5. Prevost 13. Have you heard Trump say lately in speeches and rallies, you have to show the people so they can see it for themselves. It had to be this way. Also asked, where are the gangs getting the high-powered weapons? I haven't heard him say any of that, but I kind of space out a little bit sometimes.
And don't watch.
And there's that. Yeah. $10. Steve Tans. Patrick, your voice deserves a better mic. John, give him a bonus. Time for a pro mic for a pro voice. No, guys, it's not that. This mic, this Yeti mic is actually pretty good. It's the acoustics of this room aren't that great. I do need to work on it, but yeah, thank you.
You do
the
need
mic's
a mic
great.
too.
It's the acoustics of the room.
Those are good mics, but you could get a better mic. And that is something that we've talked about. If the Rumble ad stuff ever actually comes through and you guys stop complaining about the damn ads, like we get it, we know we have no control over it, but also like Rumble needs to make money in order to compete with YouTube, whatever. We don't have this discussion again. But if that ever comes through, then we're going to maybe buy some gear for our hosts so that Burning Bright doesn't look like a fuzzball and Patrick gets a new mic and Chris has got a perfect setup, so he doesn't need anything.
I can really fix the sound beautifully in here just by putting up some sound panels. All right, $10. Motivated Mom, WV, so ready for GART 6. Will we be cheering or cussing? Been watching Badlands since day one, usually on replay. Happy to be live tonight. Y'all are awesome. In need of an adult weekend. See you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
$1, TJ Kibbles. I find it hard to imagine that there can be another election on 11/5/2024, given that the 2020 presidential election was fake. Agreed. $1, TJ Kibbles. I take that back. Kamala will win another fake election as part of the Great Awakening. What a time to be alive. Oh, God. Guys, There's a strong, strong possibility we're going to have to sit through CBS News declaring the election for Kamala Harris on like November 7th.
Yeah. By a lot.
It's going to, no, if it's by a lot, then it'll be declaring it on November 5th. Right?
Let's see. Yeah, probably, but who knows? Cancel the thing. It's fake. Whatever the story calls for is what's going to happen.
Yes, very true. The plot needs it to happen. $5 wedged gravy. Where has Mike Lindell gone and all of his lawsuits?
I bet they're just still in the same stage they've been in for the last 2 or 3 years, waiting for everyone to stop groveling and trembling and being scared of everything and admit that it's all bullshit so we can move forward.
Yep.
We're going to be stuck here forever.
God, I hope not. but it's possible.
But if we are, we will deal.
Yes.
$1 Keith O'Higgins. I thought the no standing argument was directed at Governor Greg Abbott.
Love it.
Fuck Greg Abbott. All right. Anyway, $1 Mommy with 6. Great show, you guys. Very informative. Thank you so much. $5 Kitso. My hubby and I had one screaming session over 4 days of mayhem. We did better than usually. I think survivalist is an important feature in marriage. Are we talking about the weather here?
It must be.
I think so. Thank you so much, Kitso. $5 Jay Gonzalez, 1123. Chris Paul, thank you. Your ability to break everything down and articulate all the information you take in is astounding. If you're not a paid subscriber to his Substack, you're behind the info curve. I'm a paid subscriber to his Substack.
Thank you, by the way.
Would agree with that.
All right. See, $1 Keith O'Higgins. If they can control weather, have them make it rain cats and dogs in Springfield, Ohio.
Good one.
$47. Thank you. Very generous. I am S. Holt. Gents, are you personally worried about kinetic engagement of illegal gang / merc activity? Mercenary. I, like JD's grandma, am never more than 10 feet from a loaded weapon, and our police chief has warned gangs. Maybe? Thank you so much, IMS Holt. I'm not worried. I'm going to stay out of the way. I think we'll be able to stay out of the way.
I mean, just take care of what you can control. Get your guns, get your food, get what you need.
Yep. $1 Jay Gonzalez, 1123. Chris, we need you on the battlefield. You're a master narrative destroyer. Get back on the X. Sounds like they're trying to get you on drugs, dude.
Yeah.
The people are yearning for the truth. I do miss you on Twitter, my friend. $17. Cranot 59. John, hope this is more to your liking. After last assumption, Patrick, dig into manipulation for yourself. Chris, enough said. Kudos. All right, then. $5. I'll go find some patents and confuse them with reality. $5 wedged gravy.
Fuck you. There's so much more than that.
All right. Fair enough. I mean, I'm sure there's other very persuasive documents and people saying things. $5 wedged gravy. Scavino just posted a cryptic message, 11 seconds long, all about military intelligence.
Yeah, I think I got that pulled up here. I'm assuming it's this Elvis one because it's the only one I can see like 11 seconds long. And when was that rant posted?
Okay, it's really cryptic. It's that he's singing the song Suspicious Minds.
Wow.
And it ends with "We can't go on together," and it cuts off right before he says "with suspicious minds."
Interesting.
Well, give us some answers.
All right. $1 Mac Watt. Patrick, people used dry ice to steer a hurricane into Savannah, Georgia, 1947. See this here website from NOAA and the first hurricane seeding experiment. Do we see my general objection is that it's not something I can check on? Does that make sense?
It does to me.
Okay. It doesn't mean you're not right. It means that I'm not going to preach it for you because I'm not sure. Is that okay with you? Am I allowed to have my own thoughts? All right. Anyway, $5. Prevost 13. Was Walls hunting that wascally wabbit? After all, he is Elmer Fudd. Great show, guys. $5. Wedged Gravy. His Reno rally was fire. I need to check that one out. $50. Thank you so much. Barrick D. God told us there would be times like this. And $5 RPRN. Could GBPG be given his own one-time show so he can explain? Goes to base Patrick Henry. GPPH. Explain the history of the Middle East and what is happening now. Many Christians think we're supposed to support Israel regardless of what they do. Many Christians have been deceived. There's a thing called the Schofield Bible.
Well, let me tell you something. We actually gave him a show. Well, he has his own show every weekday, or not every Wednesday, Thursday. I don't remember what day he has his show, but we also did a one-time interview where we went over the history of the conflict in the Middle East. And so I will post this in the chat. There you go. This was back in, when was this? October 10th of last year. So this would have been 3 days after the hang glider attacks or whatever, paragliders.
Yeah.
There we go. I think that's everything, guys. Fun show as always. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Hit that thumbs up. Anything else you guys want to say before we peace out?
Fun times, guys. See you next time. Don't forget to check out The Brief and Badlands Daily 5 days a week. Badlands Media.
John, I realized this yesterday on Daily. We only have 3 more Saturday Devolution Power Hours.
Oh my gosh.
Until we hit that 11:05 mark.
Oh, that's crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
We are going to have some election day coverage, by the way, some great election day coverage. We're working on getting our list of, similar to what we did in the midterms in 2022, where we had just people coming in besides our regular hosts. We're going to have that too. But we'll get some announcements on that out in the next couple of weeks. So make sure you tell your friends and family you're going to want to watch the election coverage here on Badlands, because we're going to make fun of it all. We'll take the information in as it comes, and it'll just be a grand old time. So,
John, can I highlight one Trump Truth Social post before we leave, just because I think it's worth people putting in their mind? We were just talking about some of the survival stuff. Yesterday, he posted about how he is going to make it possible to write off the taxes, have a generator purchase be a tax write-off. Now, I don't think tax write-offs are important. I think people should just stop paying money to an illegitimate pedophile government. But North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, South Carolina, Tennessee, and always Louisiana, Texas, and other states. So
he's giving a tax deduction.
Yeah, at least a very casual warning to people that after the election, because he says, when I win, that we could still have need for generators. So, hey, just words of the wise. That's how I took it, at least.
And he's giving tax code stuff to people as a nominee, a candidate. Like, what?
Let's also say this. He also just announced a named operation.
Which one?
Right? Operation Aurora.
Oh, that's right. How many more contradictions do you need?
I'm not gonna lie, guys. I'm completely dreading election night.
I'm looking for. I can't wait for it.
It's gonna be a friggin' shit show of epic proportions.
That's why I'm looking forward to it.
We thrive in chaos.
Yeah, I will be safely here in my Texas studio, and I will be helping you guys to cover it, and it'll be just delightful, I'm sure.
And then about a week after that, we'll be in Myrtle Beach together, hanging out. So
yeah, and hopefully by that time we'll know who the TV says won the election.
Oh God, that's the worst part. The fact that we do get our elections decided by the television.
Yeah. gonna be a fun time. Thanks everybody for tuning in.
Bye guys.
See you next time.
Witness the motion picture event that is being called fucking amazeballs.
Do you see the difference in the M there?
It's go time. 25 later on my.
You got a seriously weird ass way of looking at shit.
If you look at the waviness of the little flag that comes out of the R is wavy. The one in the first hump in the M is not wavy. It's just a pure arc. Does that make sense?
We want to warn our viewers that these are extremely graphic images.
Give me a second, dude. This is more autistic than I've ever been before.